Hey Bob, it's Jimmy. I'm just driving home. What time is it?
So, my good friend Jimmy sent me a voice message on WhatsApp this week.
Jesus. I look forward to getting in the van and driving back because I'd plug in the headphones and I'm continuing to listen to your podcast.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Very slowly,
but he's not just here so I can blow smoke up my own arse. There is a point to playing this.
But, and I hope this comes out in the podcast, in the series, who is Bob Graham? Why is this whole thing about him? Did he invent it? Was he? I'm assuming he... Oh, hang on. I need to change gear in an old van. Oh, God, any gear will do. Let's hope it's this one.
Jimmy is an old friend.
That'll do.
And a podcast lover.
Gear 2.
Which is why he's listening.
Or 3.
But he's not a runner.
Anyway, yeah, Bob Graham. I want to find out who the dude is.
And he's certainly not an off-road mountain running expert.
I hope it all comes out very soon. Anyway, I better go because I'm now getting flashed because I think I just got someone up. Speak to you soon. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Over and out.
And it only dawned on me, once I'd listened to his message, that not everyone listening to the podcast will be familiar with Bob Graham's story. So here's some background on the origins of the round and on Bob himself. Rounds, that is walking or running a circuit of hills in a given time, have been around forever. The UK's peaks and valleys form nice horseshoes and long, attractive ridges, so certain routes just look right. And before vehicular transport, you had to finish back where you started because there was no other way to get home. So a circular round made sense when you got around to it.
On the 13th day of June 1932, a new 24-hour Lake District fell record of 42 summits was established by 43-year-old Robert Graham of Keswick, a local guest house proprietor and Lake District guide.
A guide was someone with great fell knowledge who would show wealthy types around the hills for money.
He traversed the summits of Skiddaw, Great Calver and Blencathra to Threlkeld, the Dodds, Helvellyn Range and Fairfield to Dunmail, the Langdale Fells to Rossett, Bowfell and the Scarfell Group to Wasdale, the Mosdale Horseshoe, the Gables, Brandreth and Grey Knots to Honister Hawes, the Buttermere Fells to Newlands via Snab Side, to his starting point, the Moot Hall at Keswick. He was dressed in shorts, shirt and rubber plimsolls. Food consisted of bread and butter, lightly boiled eggs, biscuits and sweets. The total time for the long walk, including 30-minute stops at Dunmail Raise and Wasdale, with a 15-minute stop at Honister Hawes, was 23 hours 39 minutes, a record which was to stand for 28 years. Heavy rain and a thunderstorm were encountered en route.
That account hangs on the wall today in the Derwentwater Independent Hostel, which Robert Graham, aka Bob, managed. Written by Fred Rogerson, the founder of the Bob Graham Club. He started it once a few people had actually become eligible to join. You see, Bob Graham's 24-hour fell record of 42 peaks, set on his 42nd birthday, I believe, was not equalled until 1960. When Alan Heaton ran over the same 42 summits in 22 hours and 18 minutes, breaking Bob's record by over an hour. Just a handful more people managed it over the next decade. So, in January 1971, a reunion dinner of all 8 of these lean machines was held at the old Dungeon Gill Hotel in Langdale.
She's my woman of gold, and she's not very old.
Fred proposed the formation of a Bob Graham Club. Membership limited to those who had completed the 42 peak round in 24 hours. Fred himself took up the invitation to be chairman of the new club. The Bob Graham Club's stated role is to promote safe, long-distance traverses of the fells, and its main activity is the administration of the round. Applicants must register with the membership secretary before an attempt and must be accompanied at every summit for verification purposes. It's one of the traditions of the club that existing members will assist their aspiring colleagues by pacing their attempts.
Well, she's faster than most, and she lives on the coast.
Over time, through word of mouth around the northern running circuit, more people join the club. By 1998, Fred retires after an amazing 27-year stint as chairman. Membership has now grown from the 8 at the beginning to over 1,000. The club reunion dinner and dance is now held every 2nd October at the Shap Wells Hotel. This is an occasion for new members to receive their certificates and for existing members to relive former glories. Now, 22 years further on, in 2020, membership is over 2,000, including our friends Tim and Tano, and everyone's friend, Killian Jornet. So, there you go, Jimmy, now you know. For a deeper dive, read Feet in the Clouds, after listening to the author Richard Asquith, coming up in episode 10.
22 years ago today. Nebworth. I was there.
22 years and 1 week ago. Loch Lomond. Bob and I were there. Magical.
Mark would have been playing with a spreadsheet somewhere. Winking face.
As Mike well knows, I was at V97, hanging out backstage with Menswear and Supergrass. Having seen Oasis at the Duchess in 1994, I thought they were pretty good, but went off them as their boorish, pseudo-hard lad. Music by Numbers was the soundtrack for an era which promised so much, and delivered nothing.
Reason number 3721 why he is team leader.
Hi, and welcome to our podcast about the Bob Graham Round. A 66-ish mile run in the Lake District up and over 42 of England's tallest mountains in under 24 hours. Recorded throughout 2018 and 2019, this is an audio account of a year preparing for and attempting the BGR. These are our Bob Graham sounds. February and March 2019 were the lowest part of my Bob Graham year. My folders of audio for those months are nearly bare, so I started digging around to work out why. Looking back at the family Google calendar, February 1st my wife and I go to a Frank Turner gig in Bournemouth, bitterly cold and snowing. A couple of days later, February the 3rd, I tap out a despairingly brief message to Helen Hall, biomechanics analyst, posture expert, my guru in trying to get me fit for the Bob Graham. Ran this morning, was going well I thought, but less than a mile and my right calf went. Sharp sudden pain, so walked home, limping now. We'll wait a couple of days before trying again. Helen replied, wanting to know more. Went? Sharp sudden pain? Is this out of the blue? Is there any visible bruising? Where in your calf? Can you, holding on to something, lift your heels off the ground? Later that day, I write back. I'd walked a good long warm-up, then run and walked every 10 paces for a mile or so when I got a sharp, painful spasm in the lower part of my right calf, below the bulge of the larger muscle, but well above the Achilles. I walked home, with a couple of run attempts which were doable but sore, so I mostly walked. I can lift heels off the ground together and on their own. Not serious, I don't think, but noticeable when walking. No bruising. Helen straight back onto me. The fact you can do a single leg calf raise means you have not torn anything muscular. Strained, yes, but torn, no. Cycling is your friend. Mobilise without weight-bearing stress. Don't run until you can jiggle on the spot for 2 minutes without pain.
Jiggling the nerve chassis. So we're going to jump up and down the spot. Your feet leave the floor, but only just. Everything is relaxed enough for lungs to emit a soft noise through
a week later, I messaged Helen again. Did hill reps, walking up and jogging down. Went well, no calf issues. Nicer to jog on rough, soft terrain. Helen replies, oh, wonderful to read, Bob. 16th of February, another week later. Hi, Helen, my legs are feeling good. Tired from hard work, but not damaged. Cycled a full week, plus did another hill rep, walk up, run down session last night. And this checks out with my own family Google calendar. It says on Friday, February 15th, Dad butts a hill run, brackets early evening. Now this being February, I remember, it was in the dark, I was completely alone, it's right next to the A3, it's eerie, a strange way to spend your Friday night. But running does drive you to these odd lengths sometimes, doesn't it? And it gave me the chance to test my new Christmas head torch, which was good, and because no one else was around, I didn't pay for the car park. The next day, which was that Saturday the 16th, I had a speed awareness course in Salisbury. It came from that speeding ticket I got in Horton and Ribblesdale. Remember on my trip up to Yorkshire back in November in episode 5? Then several long, dull days training to be a super user on some new software that we were having installed at work. All day the following Saturday in work again, bestowing my super user wisdom on my standard level user colleagues. All Sunday emptying our beach hut. Remember the one I visited in episode 1?
I'm at our beach hut.
Not worth the £1,000 a year rent, we'd decided. My wife went to a conference in New Orleans for work, so a lot of life juggling. It's hard to run when other half's away.
Okay, I want you to just be able to listen to two options, and as you listen, you will know which one feels as if it resonates most strongly. The first
On March the 4th, I get this nice voice message from Helen. Now, I reply the next day, but only in text, not voice. And this is classic me when I'm feeling down. I'm a bit terse, not quite passive-aggressive, but certainly a little bit frosty. Hi, thanks for the message. I've not really run much. Finding motivation hard at the moment. Bike riding okay though, and Achilles seems happy. Now to give her credit, Helen tries her best. Oh my goodness, you need a run with me! 4 exclamation marks. Is it life or injury boredom? Next message. We need to put the fun in run. Your smile when you ran pain-free lit up the sky. Next message. I feel as if I need to race down to Portsmouth to rescue you. I reply 2 hours after her initial message. I'm fine, it's just hard to find the time. I'll get back into it soon. Helen's back again. Time. That thing that keeps slipping away. I'm mates with Saturn, the keeper of time. I'll have a word. Slow some down for you. Little praying emoji, a running horse, a smile. Me, half an hour later. Thank you. And then I go totally dark, incommunicado, for 4 weeks. Until, on the 28th of March, message from Helen. Hello! Lots of O's, 2 exclamation marks. I hope you're enjoying the newness of spring. I'm thinking of you.
Hi Helen, thanks very much for your message. Hello back. I'm alright, thank you. Apologies for not being in touch really. I had a bit of low mental health spell, and the first thing that goes when I feel low is communication. I kind of isolate myself, so haven't really been in touch with anyone, but so apologies for that, but I'm feeling better and also fit and healthy.
Hi Bob, oh my goodness, I can't believe where the time goes, and I am totally with you. When I am low, I hide myself away, nobody hears from me.
So I include all this because, one, it happened, lifts go down as well as up, and I don't want to make a Disney story of our BGR attempt that isn't honest. 2, doing the BGR, wanting to do it, committing to my friends that I was going to do it, the pressure to live up to that commitment brought some of this gloom, this poor mental health, this depression on. When you take on big things, it can put you through the ringer. So I just wanted to communicate that, really. I wanted you to know. But with the onset of spring, the darkness and my spirits lifted, and the slow crawl towards running fitness began.
With 82 days to go to get round the round, and running for the first time in a long time. But I've got a hill, I can run up it, I can run down it, and bathe in the sunshine, drowning out the sound of the motorway if I can. I can look across Portsmouth Harbour, and it's all right. It's all right.
More of the springtime 2019 running pursuits of me and the team in a mo, but first, a little rewind to my winter's afternoon conversation with Duncan Craig, recorded on a nice sofa in a chic coffee area on the 5th floor of the News UK building, home of the Times and the Sunday Times, for which Duncan is the travel editor. As I looked out of the window across the capital city, you can't miss the Shard next door, which towered above us. A bit like Skiddaw looms over Keswick. Well, kind of. Right, I'm going to say hello to Duncan Craig, travel editor at the Sunday Times.
That's correct.
And a regular contributor to Runner's World magazine. And that's where I have spotted you, because we sort of have a connection to our running team who are doing the Bob Graham this time, because you were at university with my best mate from school, Beanie.
That's right, yeah.
Nick, who I then sent a copy of an article in the Runner's World saying, is this your mate from university? Some years ago, and it turns out it was, and I remembered that name. And that article was about you doing the Bob Graham, so here we are.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was actually by my good friend Charlie Norton, who I ran it with and trained with. But yes, it was very much about our attempt.
So when you knew Beanie at university 20 years ago, he was playing football then and is now a fully kind of paid up middle-aged man in lycra running on the hills. He loves all of that stuff. Were you a running person at that point?
Fairly similar trajectory, I would say. I certainly wasn't anything close to Beanie in football terms. I liked my rugby, and I used to run really to keep fit more than anything. It was only, I think, as is a common story, probably into my late 20s, early 30s, where I started to see the potential for doing a lot more with the running.
And when did you get to sort of write about running and think, oh, there's something in this to go along with my job?
Yeah, I think as a journalist I've always written about what I've done. So whether that's been travelling really from, obviously almost the early 20s, I'd say. What I've been doing is travelling and also working as a sort of fitness and adventure and health journalist as well. So all of those things, my interests, neatly dovetail with what I'm doing for work. So I've really been writing about running and travel for probably 20 years in total.
Sounds like the dream job. I think at the BBC, the holiday programme presenter is the best gig. Is travel editor of Sunday Times similar?
I think there are probably people who would say that, yes. I mean, like any job, the ups and downs, but I certainly can't complain.
And where have you run? Where's the best places that you've been in the world running?
I think the Sahara would be an obvious one. I did the Marathon des Sables back in 2007, I think, when it was already a big thing then. It's become increasingly so. That was a hell of a destination to be running in for a certain number of days as well, essentially embedding yourself in the Sahara for almost a week and running prodigious distances. That's something I won't ever forget. I've run in the Arctic. I went up there. I was doing a travel piece for the Sunday Times there a few years ago, and that was actually on ice running, as it was called, with specially adapted shoes. And probably, to be fair, I've run almost everywhere that I've travelled to. I find it a wonderful way to get under the skin of a destination, and whether that's running up and down a beach or around a town, getting up early. I was in Florence quite recently, set my alarm, I was out at 6, and by the time I get back at 8:30, I feel like I know the city, I know my way around it.
Yeah, and what stage of running are you at now? Do you train for things? Are you still entering races? Or is it just, like you say, a sort of keep fit, explore, good for the mind?
Yes, it's a tricky one. I think probably it started to taper off a little bit. I've passed 40 now. I'm in my early 40s, but my wife would say there's certain relapses that keep happening. Only last year I went and ran a very niche event in Switzerland, which is the longest staircase in the world.
Yeah.
I seem to remember 11,000, nearly 12,000 steps, significantly higher and longer than any stair race in the world. And I've done a fair amount of stair racing as well. So for someone who is nominally retired, that was clearly a bit of a relapse there. But yes, I'm not doing as many as I was. For a while, I had a big event every year without fail.
Right. So how did the BGR come into your thing? So this is going back about 5 years, isn't it?
It's going back to 2013 that Charlie and I made our attempt. We sort of goaded each other. We're very good friends. We had similar jobs at the time. We're both adventure journalists, travel journalists, looking for fun things to do. We'd both done the Marathon des Sables. In fact, he was the reason I did the Marathon des Sables. He was working at the Telegraph at the time, and he put together a fantastic diary that went out over the course of a week, and it got a really big response. And I remember living with a flatmate at the time. We were reading this, and we have to do that. So I was aware of Charlie through that, and he, in the meantime, had gone on and done 5 or 6 other really big ones, including the Yukon. I'd subsequently done the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, UTMB, which is another sort of bucket list trail run, shall we say, and had done probably 4 or 5 ultras, as well as assorted other races. But quite clearly, lurking in the background was the Bob Graham round, and it was something we were aware of, and the more we looked into it, the more hooked we became. And in truth, it didn't require a lot of convincing from either of us.
I've not done ultras, but all of those other ones that you'd done before, are they all with aid stations and way markers and things like that, or do you have to navigate? Very different.
It's horses for courses. The Marathon des Sables is a multi-stage one, so you're running for a certain time. I think the longest day there is a double marathon, so a 50-miler. Right. And then each night you're heading to a camp which has been set up for you, where you're then feeding yourself, trying to get some sleep, and you start again the next day. The Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc is tougher, I believe, for the fact that it's non-stop. So I believe it's a 102-mile circumnavigation of the Mont Blanc Massif. Yeah. And the up and down, I think the aggregate climb is 8,800 metres, something like that. Forgive me if the figures are slightly out, but you do that in one hit. And there are aid stations as you go, but you're chased all the way by cut-off times, and if you're not at a certain point at a certain time, it's, you're curtains.
So that's the sort of mental pressure there. You've got the time pressure. Can you get lost on that, or is that kind of difficult?
Marathon des Sables not. They use lasers and various things to ensure, obviously it's not great publicity if a couple of people go missing. The UTMB follows a fairly set path, because that's actually a long distance trail that people can hike over a series of days. So again, you're not likely to get lost. So the BGR, the extra element was, of course, suddenly you're navigating as well.
Yeah, and it's just so murky and unmarked. Unmarked for anything. There's just, you just think, well, is that a path across there, or?
It's one of the really big challenging elements of the BGR as it relates to all of these other ones, because there's something about applying yourself to something of this size, very, very tricky in so many ways, physically and mentally. But the idea that actually you could have got lost at some point, and the last hour might actually be entirely futile. When that starts to play with your head, you're in serious trouble, and of course you're then slipping behind your time, and the whole thing starts to snowball.
So we've been, our little gang of us, Mark, our team leader, and then there's me and Beanie, and a couple of other guys, Tim, Tano and Mike, have been getting a weekend away from families for the last 3 years and going up to recce legs of the Bob Graham with limited success. I think we did a 1 year where we did a leg 1, which took us about 8 hours for a leg which should be just less than 3 hours, I think. Just because the weather was so awful. I've managed a leg 3. I've never done 2 or 4, and we did a leg 5 once. And then this summer just gone, 2018 summer, Tim and Tano, we got them round. So I was injured, so I was the road support, and Mark and Beanie each ran a leg with them and supported them and got them round. So we sort of feel like we know it can be done, but there's just so much logistics. What I really learnt, even being the road support person, is an enormous pressure to not screw it up for each other. Your job, you brilliantly dug out the article that Charlie wrote about it for Runner's World, and you were navigation. I mean, that is the big panic, the big kind of pressure job, isn't it?
It's a lot of pressure, and if if you haven't been brought up, if you're not versed in orienteering, you've probably done a limited amount of navigation in your life, particularly these days where we're all relying on our smartphones.
Yeah.
So to suddenly have that pressure, and you're right, pressure's the word, and on top of everything else, you have to divvy up what people are doing, and on top of everything else, to have that is something in your corner. I did feel the pressure a little bit with that.
Did you really go really immersive into your different routes, descents off this mountain and that side of it?
Do you know what? I did what a lot of people do, I think, which is I did my absolute best within the time constraints.
Yeah.
We both had young kids. In fact, the timing from that point of view was terrible. We just, our wives had just given birth to, respectively, our first children. And, you don't have a lot of time. So between work, all your family commitments, to get out and then do the sufficient number of hours to be fit and ready to go with BGR is one thing. To then have all the other logistical stuff you need to work on is another. And I think, like you, we had a situation where we would go up and we would do legs, and we convinced ourselves, because we'd done these legs separately, we were ready.
Yeah.
And I don't want to prick your bubble with that at all, but that was the big shock, that of course the cumulative toil of doing one after the other, you just cannot prepare for, short of having done the whole loop. What is it, 66 miles in total?
Yeah.
All of those peaks. Until you've done it in one, you don't know what that is going to be like.
And it's easy to forget as well. In the article, Charlie sort of describes you had a couple of sort of disastrous wet recce weekends, but then you have a bright sunny day, you finish on a high because you do leg 5 in the sunshine. You go, you come away thinking, well, that actually maybe we'll be all right, but forgetting that the other 8 hours you spent wandering around lost.
Absolutely, and the changeability of the weather is another thing. The UTMB is tough, but you're there in Chamonix. The weather is fairly regular, as I recall it. There's heat. It's not really dropping below zero or anything. And suddenly with this, we had the most appalling weather that struck us. And that's in no way do I wish to sort of mitigate against our success or failure, but that's just part and parcel of the event.
That is
you have to factor in the worst possible condition.
Yeah, and you did have awful weather, it sounds like, which, this year when our friends Tim and Tano got round, it was a heat wave, so there was a lot of carrying water debate and how to keep hydrated, but they never had a single problem with navigation because you could see everything for miles, and you didn't have to worry about being soaking wet, being freezing cold, because which can. Yeah,
and ours was the flip side of that, and also the terrain is something that you need to mention in that as well. When it's rock solid and hard, you're travelling at a better pace. Your footing is more sure. We had times where the visibility was literally, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and at the same time you're slipping around in bogs. Again, I'm not complaining, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. How did you prepare and train? Because I'm guessing you live down in the south. Did you get on many hills?
Yeah, we're both southerners. We did our absolute best. We, as I said, we both had young kids at the time, so it wasn't like we could get away in the same way maybe 5-10 years before. We could absolutely immerse ourselves in the preparation for something. So we went up, and rather like yourselves, we broke it into stages. We made sure we ticked off all those stages. We tried to do a couple of stages back to back in places. Just spent a lot of time up in the lakes, which is no penance at all. It's such a beautiful environment to be in, and tried to familiarise ourselves with the trails, and also the sort of the history and the background of the event. We met a number of people who had guided others round, who knew it a great deal, who had maybe done it 3 or 4 times themselves, and that was hugely valuable, the local knowledge.
Yeah, we met through Tim and Tano recceing. They met people who were also recceing, who then became support runners, and they were brilliant. It seems to be quite a nice community buzz about that. You carried your kit, didn't you? Each of you had support runners with you, but you carried stuff, which this summer Tim and Tanner didn't carry anything. They were just sherped around by the other ones, and you went as two together, which Tim and Tanner managed to do, but maybe the weather equaled things out. But that's a bit abnormal, isn't it, to carry your own kit and to go in a pair?
I believe so. I mean, not all of it was planned out and followed in the exact way. It was, at the end of the day, we needed a certain number of support runners. We just had to make a strategy, and that proved to be it. There were different ways to do it. In the same way, you can do it essentially clockwise or anti-clockwise. You can do it in the summer or the winter. A lot of it's down to you and how you approach it.
Yeah. Did you buy tons of kit? And did you have enough of the right kit or some of the wrong kit?
Yeah, it's funny this, isn't it? You look back at the history of the race, and Bob Graham ran around sort of eating boiled eggs, and these days we've got, possibly we overthought it. We certainly, on the nutrition side, I was navigation with a capital N, Charlie was nutrition. Through his job as a specialist sports and fitness journalist, he had contacts with pretty much everyone. He knew as much as anyone could about sports nutrition. So we were certainly prepared in that respect. But it's always a combination of, you don't want to just be going around on the gels and running on fumes. Essentially, you need the heavy duty carbs. So both of our wives were up there in the sport team and were cooking bits and pieces and preparing different things that had the optimum combination of power to weight ratio. I would say there were very few stones left unturned in that respect.
So when it went wrong, I guess, did you feel quite early on the weather's just too awful, we're never going to get round?
Yeah, good question. We thought as we progress, I mean, you obviously know at what point you need to be completing certain segments.
Yeah.
I remember the first segment was bloody hard, and we got to the end of that and we felt like we'd given it a lot, and we were sort of 3 minutes up on the time that we planned for. So then, of course, you're trying to refuel, do everything you need to do, mentally prepare yourself for the second one. The weather's getting worse and worse and worse. No one articulated it at that moment, but already we were thinking, this really is quite something as a challenge. And then as the second leg progressed, we went clockwise. That was through the middle of the night, and that was when the visibility high up, Helvellyn and around there, really was appalling. And that's when a couple of times we started to stray off course as well. We spoke about that earlier, the idea of burning a few minutes, but also the way the morale can sink. And so we tried to get ourselves back on track from there. But by the end of the second leg, coming down into sort of Grasmere and around there, we were already beginning to think, again, still not speaking about it, but this is beginning to slip away.
Did you not finish leg 3 then? Did you finish partway through leg 3?
We finished leg 3, but I think there was a conversation during that bit, and Charlie's, well, I mean, to give you an indication of just how appalling the weather was, I mean, Charlie had hypothermia, and this was it June? He was really struggling, and we had to make some fairly tough calls about that. He wanted to continue, we both did. To be fair, I was struggling hugely. I wasn't struggling in that way, but when it was like, I think the best decision here, the most responsible thing to do is to pull the plug and head back down. I certainly wasn't in a position to start complaining.
No. Did you want to do it again? Did it kill the lakes and that bit of the lakes for you for a while? Were you itching to have another go at it?
I think all of those elements. I mean, I don't think it could possibly mar what is such a spectacular part of the world. I could go back tomorrow and I'd love walking around Helvellyn and peaks that probably the last time I was there I was in bits. I wasn't broken in the way that maybe the younger me would have been. I felt like we'd given it the best possible shot at that period in our lives, and there's all sorts of factors. Without kids, without commitments, such work commitments, if we'd committed more time to it, possibly better weather, obviously, possibly we could have done it. We like to think, but possibly not. And I don't think I think it's so hard, the Bob Graham, that even if we had another pop at it with all of those factors ticked off, I don't think there was any guarantees at all that we would have done it. So I think we both just felt we were delighted to have had a go at it. And certainly, when we warmed up, we were in the pub, three pints deep, it felt like a hell of an adventure rather than a massive failure.
Yeah, I find if I'm doing something for the radio or making a podcast like this as well, then I enjoy the story. Anyway, I mean, so the article is a great story of an unsuccessful round, but still, like you say, it's a great adventure story in its own right. I mean, maybe that helps a little bit as well. Where you kind of, the journalist in you thinks, well, it was a good tale to tell.
A good tale, certainly, and Charlie told it exceptionally well.
Yeah. So afterwards, have you done lots more events? Are you kind of, are you still ultra mad? I mean, the world seems to go ultra mad. Do you think we've reached peak ultra? And are you part of it still?
Yeah, it's a difficult one for me. Charlie actually died a couple of years ago, and that, in a way, because we'd done this together, I wouldn't want to go back and try and do that again. But as for other events, I think we talk about different stages in our lives. I feel like I've ticked off a number of big ones there. Probably I will enter other events, and I'm sure in sort of 8 years' time, as I push towards 50, that's a big time where people start saying, right, what can we do? And I'd love to do sort of Ironmans and things like that. If there's an ultra that comes up that really tickles me, I can see myself going in for that. But yeah, as you say, it's such a huge thing now, and it's great. You've got this sort of hyperinflation of these things where it started as 5Ks, it's gone up to 10, then halves. Now your grandmother's done a marathon. So where do you go? Well, you go to ultras, and then from there, where do you go? Well, you go specialist maybe, stair running, or combining with swims and swim run. There's so much to do, but the point is, so many people are doing it, and we're no longer sort of just golfing our way into middle age.
Where do you think, if you're sort of embedded in this adventure world, you look at all these events professionally as well, where are the future trends? What do you think we'll be doing over the next couple of years?
I can only see it growing, really, and I can see races coming on stream that offer a point of difference. That seems to be the main thing. But I think it's all about where the races are held. I can remember doing the Empire State Building run-up a few years ago. Fantastic finish. I mean, it's probably the most spectacular finish line in the world of running. Yeah. But the course is a dusty stairwell. You're doing something like this, like the Bob Graham, or you're doing something like the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc or the Marathon de Sable. Whether you like it or not, you're absorbing incredible environments around the world. So I think as long as they offer that type of point of difference, then I think people will continue to be signing up in big numbers.
And I don't know, it may have been that Charlie that dealt with it, but the Bob Graham people, club or what have you, are a little bit reticent to have any media coverage. They don't do interviews and things like that. So I suppose that article, Richard Asquith's book, Feet in the Clouds, from 3 or 4 years ago, and maybe this podcast, hopefully, if lots of people listen to it, that accelerates the publicity of it, but I'm not sure it's necessarily going to make more and more people do that. I mean, some more people will do it, but it's still quite inaccessible, isn't it? Because it's just such a ball ache to have a go at.
It is, and I think in a way that's the beauty of it. I was at the time quite frustrated that they were so reticent. From a journalist point of view, you want to get people, you want to get them commenting about these things, but actually it's great in a way that they have that sort of, there's absolutely no effort to court publicity for this, and if anything, I think they would rather it stayed underground. We certainly felt as Southerners coming up there to have a go, we were welcomed wherever we went, but you can see why. I mean, it's their race, it's not our race, and for us to have a pop at it, I think is great, but I can understand their frustration if more and more people are doing it. I was lucky enough to interview Kilian Jornet just after his Everest attempt, and because I'd done the Bob Graham, or attempted it and actually failed, we had a quick chat about that, and of course I had heard that it was on his, in his sites, and I think what he did with that a couple of months back, breaking the record, that will obviously put the event on people's radar even more. I don't know if that's something they're welcomed or not, but I mean, he's an extraordinary athlete, and I think it needed an extraordinary athlete to break that record. And in a way, I think what will stop the Bob Graham from becoming another one of these sort of mass-produced, mass-marketed, it's almost unmarketable. I would say, as an event, because there's so much nuance to it, there's so much subtlety, there's so many variations. You can't see it being neatly bagged up and someone's, heading off to the Far East or to the American market and saying, come on then, can we get 20,000 people doing this every year? It's just not that type of thing. It's a highly individual thing. It's you against the fells, and in your own time.
Thanks ever so much for your time. It was great
Pleasure.
to get a bit of insight, and I'll let you know how we get on.
Great. Good luck with it.
Thank you. As you could probably tell when Duncan told me that Charlie Norton had passed away in that interview, I had no idea. So I'm really grateful and honoured that Duncan was happy to do the interview with me. He was already having to chat about his own unsuccessful attempt, which isn't necessarily easy, but which he did, as you heard, with great honesty and humour. But then, what I didn't know, I was inadvertently asking him to also reminisce about what must now be very bittersweet collections of memories of time spent with his late friend. So thank you, Duncan, and my thoughts and condolences to you and to all of Charlie's friends and family. Now, I wanted to interview Duncan because he did fail at the Bob Graham, and even with all the hyperinflation of rounds, people doing double rounds, the spine race, epic long adventures, the Bob Graham is still really difficult. It's in the Lake District, the terrain is always tricky, it can be dangerous, the weather is fickle, and your fitness, your navigation, your need for the right nutrition, to pull together ample support, the correct clothing. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go into a Bob Graham, and I really wanted to prepare myself for all the possible outcomes and not just assume, because Tim and Tano had done it the year before, that we would also be able to do it. So, to start with, let's control the controllables and get on with our training.
Wow, it is a sun-drenched afternoon, Monday the 1st of April, 2 days to go until our Bob Graham attempt. I'm looking, as you can hear, I'm not in the quiet tranquility of the lakes. That's the M27 roaring in the background, rush hour on a Monday, and I have stopped by Portsdown Hill, just above Portsmouth, which is the nearest bit of hill with a bit of off-road track, so that I can, halfway through my cycle home, go for a run. My first meaningful run of my Bob Graham preparation, really.
Our Bob Graham attempt is scheduled for June 21st, 2019. Well, the B&B is booked anyway. It will definitely feature Mark as lead contender, supported by his brother Mike, a leg 2 specialist. Tim and Tano, the conquering heroes from last summer, will return to support. Beanie will do 2 legs this time round, and a few others, Gabor, Chris, and hopefully, definitely, maybe, me, attempting 2 alongside Mark. So where are we now then? Let's do a little pat down. Testicles, spectacles, wallet and watch. Let's have an audit of our current situation.
Morning Bob, it's Tim. It's Sunday morning about 7:30, and I'm doing my best to keep fit with my little boy in tow, out running with the running buggy down Bridgewater Canal. It's flat as a pancake, but it'll hopefully keep a few miles in the legs.
Morning Bob. 12 weeks to go apparently till the Bob Graham round. Feeling pretty intimidated by that, as I'm just heading back from having done a Saturday morning hill session in Ivinghoe in the North Downs, where I found it very hard work, very tight calf, but it was a lovely morning. Sort of rolling mist and lambs and swooping kites overhead and deer and things like that, and just me spoiling the environs in some crappy lycra with my hairy legs sticking through them, my tights. That was delightful. I even managed to fall over at one point and have the concerned looks of two deer who'd caused me to fall over by startling me. They didn't move off until they realised I was alright, which is quite touching actually.
I am on mile 19 of a lovely day out in the lakes, which will start and finish full of campbells, and it's taken in Newland skyline, Buttermere skyline, 9,000 feet of up and down, and I'm now making the trudge from Honners to Slakemoor to Dale Head.
Over the next couple of weeks, it's going to be a Ricky, Nicky, Ricky triple bill of mini episodes.
Overall, it was an incredibly eye-opening experience, really beautiful at most of the time.
I catch up on Skype with US runner-philosopher Ricky Gates after his every single street run around San Francisco.
I think all virgins try and find someone that's done it before to sort of lead them around a little bit.
I give Nikki Spinks a call to hear about her trip to Tennessee as a virgin in the Barkley Marathons.
And the veterans don't mind. It was sort of so strange for me to be following somebody.
And I get up at dawn on a Sunday morning to meet Cumbrian firefighter and elite mountain runner, the brilliantly named Ricky Lightfoot, at the base of Grisdale Pike to chat before he leapt off for his pre-work hill session.
If you run that first descent up Glen Catherine, you get to the bottom, you think, bloody hell, my legs are feeling that like it's not a good sign.
No.